the vice president or the second lady of the United States is officially having her bandaid baby. So Usha Vance is pregnant and apparently getting ready to have, what is it, kid number 4?
I think it's number 4.
Yeah, kid number 4. To keep Erica Kirk as far away from her man as humanly possible. So JD Vance is gonna be on diaper duty for a while.
Do we really think that?
I mean, not at all. I was being euphemistic, but Julie, usually we try to talk, heavy news, but this is funny. It's funny. I mean, a new life, that's wonderful, but this is funny.
This is what I call dumb shit for smart people,
There
Norris.
you go. Yeah.
I know it did have us all in a bit of a tiz yesterday, wasn't it? It was like none of us expected that the timeline of 2026, which has already been fucking wild, would include Usha Vance knocked up. Clearly, he missed the couch and got Usha.
I mean, it's the thing with JD Vance is, listen, he's easily one of the strangest men I think that have ever sat in the chair of vice president. And this Erica Kirk thing, I mean, it caught like wildfire. And let me tell you, I don't know about y'all, and I can speak to this as a man. If a woman hugged me and put her hand up all through the nape of my neck, now, if anybody watch Attack on Titan, they know that's a weak spot back in the nape of the neck. And, you touch there, I mean, we're dating. We dating at that point.
You're loose.
Listen, I'm just saying, we dating. That's intimate.
But, I mean, I think the Erica Kirk thing is an interesting part of this because the worst part is when you read the comments. Like we did a post about it yesterday on Distill Social, or when it happened on Distill Social, and I thought reading the comments, which gives me a bit of joy, but I was even reading the comments on a Washington Post article on it, and they were just given absolute shit. It was a whole Handmaid's Tale, under his, heavily eyelined eye, all this kind of stuff that was on there about basically throwing shade at Erica Kirk and JD Vance. So, yeah, it kept us all entertained. I think we all need a bit of that at the moment, but interesting that she's having her 4th baby, which will absolutely be another brown baby.
Yep.
To the Vice President of the United States, who is currently running around removing brown immigrants from the country. So those kids have really look forward to a interesting, I suppose, reflection on who their dad is and what the dad's done.
Yeah, if there was ever, in my opinion, like kids being set up to like hate their parents, like how do you not grow up and recognize like what is happening, right? How do you reckon with the fact that you are a child of color or a person of color and your own father has campaigned diligently to remove people like you from the country?
We are all part of a legacy.
Yeah.
We all have to live with and reflect on the sins of our fathers, as they say. So it'd be interesting to see how this all pans out.
Welcome to Point of Disorder. I am your host, Norris.
And I'm Julie.
Well, we want to welcome you all to the show this week. You can check us out on all of your social medias. That's Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok and YouTube. You can follow us at Point of Disorder, as well as at Distill Social for even more information. And a lot of the stories that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about the 1-year anniversary of the Trump administration, obviously everything around Greenland right now, which is a huge concern for folks, in addition to MLK Day, which just passed, a reflection on that, and so much more. But we start with the 1-year anniversary of the Trump administration. And, I got to say this. I'm going to just hop out here and say this because I've had this on my chest. We've had an entire 365 days of this, y'all, and everything that many of you voted for, the exact opposite is happening. You voted for more fiscal responsibility, balancing the budget. Well, that's been exploded like never before. Oh, you voted for free, better health care. Well, now you have way more expensive health care. You voted for no new wars. We're probably about to go into like World War III, like the biggest possible war that wars could be. And, pretty much the only thing that's happening that Trump said what happened is, we're going to deport some immigrants. But even then, we're not deporting the immigrants, he said.
We were supposed to be deporting all the bad, the worst, the people that are basically murderers, the rapists, all of those folks were supposed to be going. The conversation I want to have with you, Norris, is one that we have off air often, and that is that we don't want to say we fucking told you so, but there are so many people that I hear out there that are kind of like buyer's remorse. Now, there's one thing to buy a new pair of shoes that hurt you, and that's buyer's remorse. But there's the other thing is to have voted for this guy, not just once, but twice, right? So it's not like it was you didn't know what you were buying. It's like buying a pair of fancy high heel shoes and then after a few years going, oh, I'll buy another pair of those after still having blisters from the last time you wore them. So it frustrates me so much.
It is frustrating. And one of the main things that I always try to bring up is that there are demographics in the United States that had been trying to tell you what is going to happen for the better part of 10 years. Like the African-American community overwhelmingly voted for Kamala Harris, right? And to be perfectly honest with you, obviously I don't speak for every black person in America, but not only did we tell y'all so, but also we have been warning you about this type of administration for years. We've warned you about growing authoritarianism. We've warned you about healthcare costs. We've warned you about over-policing. We've warned you about all of this stuff. And because it was happening to us, or because it was happening to brown folks or gay folks or trans folks or whoever, no, it's cool. Won't happen to us. And now here you are. So it's hard sometimes to feel sympathetic.
And I don't want to sort of like gloss over the fact that there are still a lot of people that are totally fine with what's going on. So I don't think we can kind of say, oh, well, everyone's, pissed off and they're, claiming that they, it's not their fault, they didn't vote for him or whatever. There is still a portion, at least 1/3 of 1 in 3 people that you run into at the supermarket or you're talking to at your kids' school or whatever voted for this. And more than that, they still support it.
Yeah. And they support it in a strong way. And I'm going to just tell y'all this. If this is really what you think is the right direction for the country, I want you to go check your 401k right now. Like, I'm serious. What did it, as of recording, the market closed, what was that, Tuesday, like down 850?
Yeah, it was down about 2%, which is quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where like Bloomberg is panicking, and they were talking about in the Tuesday editions of Bloomberg, they were literally saying like, is it time for us to get rid of them? Like, it's bad when the business community is saying, no, dog, this ain't it.
The lens that I look at it through is kind of like the feedback that I get from my friends overseas that live internationally outside of the United States. And there is no doubt when people say to me, oh, well, he's not my president. And I get this all the time. He's not my president, blah, blah, blah. When people say to me that, I just repeat back to them the fact that the rest of the world sees this. They're looking at it and saying, well, they don't really care. They look at it through the lens of it's not just Trump. It's the American system. The American people voted for this and they elected him, obviously, like I said, not once but twice. So they already had like a preview of what was going to happen. And they had Project 2025, like he actually gave a fucking playbook, a list of things he was going to do, which I think is like 60% through at this point. So after 1 year. So let's see what the next 12 months looks like. But also that the system is so fucking broken.
Yeah.
When you have a look, it's not just that you have Trump in charge. Like he and his acolytes and Stephen Miller and all these people, these people are cruel, they're evil. They got elected somehow. And now they are just being given a fucking blank check to do whatever they like. If you like sit back and look at it from an outside perspective If you could imagine, if you close your eyes and think about the fact that there are masked people killing US citizens, going into people's homes, asking them for their paperwork. This sounds like something from either Nazi Germany or, as we like to talk about, from China. We talk often about, third world countries or other countries where people are treated so poorly by their governments. And that's what it feels like right now.
And I agree with that in sort of the macro. But also, it is exactly America. I mean, masked people snatched up Black and brown and Native folks for almost 150, 200 years in this country.
Yep.
And killed them in this country.
But I'm going to come back at you with this. You've been saying for the last 18 months, people will not care until the brick comes through their window. And that's what we're talking about here. Everyone thought, as we said before, everyone thought it's not going to be me. It's not going to be me. And the people with buyer's remorse right now are the people that have had the bricks come through their window.
Yeah.
And I think the thing we also need to highlight around this is the fact that the system is fucking broken, and there are so many people out there that are talking about, oh, we just need to ride this out. We just need to get rid of Trump. Once we get rid of Trump, everything's going to be fine. The midterms. Number one, I want to say, I'm not convinced that there's going to be midterms. And I say that out loud. I'm not sure if I should have that on record, but I'm very nervous about whether there will be midterms. Yeah. But apart from that, just getting a Democrat or giving, if Democrats take back Congress, that is not going to be enough, because we are seeing these Democrats that are fucking, if I hear one more, I don't want to shit all over Democrats all the time, but these people are flaccid. There are so many of them that are saying, oh, you can't say defund or ICE, you can't do this, you can't, be careful, be peaceful, be this. Dude, we are so fucking past the time where we need to be being polite and saying, please, sir, may I have another? That ship has sailed. We are 12 months in, and if you can't see that we are heading down a very, very fucking dangerous path, then don't know what to say to you.
And, I just want to kind of double down on the fact that you were talking about the system being broken, because I saw a tweet that really surmised this very well, which is the lack of confidence that the rest of the globe now has in America. And the tweet basically said, the entire global stability, like the stability of the globe, which heavily depends on the United States just because of our economic and military power, should not depend on 50,000 voters in Wisconsin. When you think about the entire earth and how quickly our entire political system can flip and be turned into something that almost none of us recognize because, a few people in each state have chosen this guy. That is a system that is not sustainable globally. And that's why the rest of the globe, for the most part, works off popular vote like normal people.
And the reason that those people were so susceptible to being taken in by a charlatan, basically, I feel like we're at a circus where these people have been sold a fucking lemon, basically. The reason they were taken in is because, quite simply, the system has not worked for so many of them in the past over many, many generations, from the access to healthcare, access to education, the cost of living, all these things have basically, all of the populist issues that we talk about all the time, they're basically saying this system doesn't work for us. We want something new. And we have this dickhead that came in and said, I'll give you something new. And
no more Latino people.
That's right.
That's the thing he gave you.
Actually, Adrian sent me a message this morning saying she did a deep dive, I think, on Nextdoor or something, and it was about the cost of basically the economy at the moment. And most of the people in there were basically blaming Biden, immigrants. And what was the third thing? There was something else. They're still blaming that.
Explain to me how a Nicaraguan immigrant affects the price of eggs. Well, they don't.
Well, the only reason they're being impacted by now is because immigrants are saying, hey, I'm not going to go to work.
I'm not going to go to work.
It's not safe.
Come on.
That's what it comes down to.
Speaking of the entire global hegemony, Greenland, one of the really scariest aspects of this particular administration, at least from a geopolitical point of view. Obviously, many of you know Donald Trump has said many times he wants Greenland. He wants Greenland to be a part of America. Um, there's a huge meeting of global powers in Switzerland right now, Davos. And the world has unequivocally stood up and not just rejected Trump, but is starting to walk away from the entire concept of American global political leadership. And that is something that is, I've never heard this before.
Well, okay. So I'm going to say that inside America, you rarely hear what's happening outside of America.
This is
what
true.
people are saying, right? And that's not having a go at anybody. That's just simply how the world works. America has so much going on all the time. There's, a lot of people live here. So I've always said that it's so hard to get an external perspective of America when you are living in it.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. But I think now it's absolutely fucking impossible to ignore what the leaders, particularly across Europe. I mean, the big thing about this is that this threatens NATO.
Yes.
And quite frankly, NATO is obviously a treaty that's been in place since World War II, by which most of the economic prosperity and most of the peace, and I'm not going to say for 1 minute that it's been a peaceful whatever.
Most of the peace in Western society
has come from NATO.
Yeah.
And this has been when you and I and the Hito boys that are sitting here in front of us all say, you know what? We're going to stand by each other. We're going to work together economically. We're going to protect each other, and we're all going to contribute to that. And we all know that we have different resources,
if
different
you get
skills.
in a fight, I'll help you.
Correct, exactly. You're my mate. I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
And now we're at a point. Then a member of NATO, a member of NATO is now threatening to take over land that belongs to another NATO member. And that is just going to turn it to complete shit.
Yeah. At that point, we are talking about, and I can say this without hyperbole, that is World War III.
It is. And I think what's interesting is that the European leaders have gone from placating, managing him. Like you can see over the last 12 months, they've been charming him, trying to work out ways that they can, work with Trump in some way. They've gone from, how do we work with the United States to how do we fucking survive the United States at this point? That's how it feels.
Yeah, and, I want to bring up two particular nations in particular, which is Canada and France, two of our largest economic partners, two of our largest military partners as well. And just overview, if you didn't know, Greenland belongs to Denmark. So let's just get that out the way. But Canada and France, so Macron, and I want to pronounce his name properly,
Mark Carney.
Carney. They both got on stage at Davos and essentially said, number one, we are looking at a future without American hegemony, so without American leadership, and we're opening our markets to Chinese vehicles.
Correct. I mean, Mark Carney, the other thing I want to point out about France and Canada is they are two of the biggest bond holders of US bonds, which, economically is interesting as well. Gives them way more leverage over us than you can possibly ever imagine. So that's kind of dangerous. But Mark Carney basically said what so many leaders, I think, have been thinking, and that is it's a break glass moment. This is a time where we're not fucking around anymore. The post-World War II economic prosperity and relative peace that we've all benefited from in the West, it's on the line. It's pretty much gone at this point. But the truth is that a lot of countries in the world have actually not benefited from this. So I think globally there's some interesting stuff around this as well.
Yeah, and I just want to bring it back to Michigan in particular and how we fit into all this, because we've been talking a lot about the globe and the country, but let me bring it back down to Michigan. Y'all, if China and France are opening their market to Chinese vehicles, say goodbye to the American auto industry.
Yeah.
Kiss it goodbye.
Yeah.
Because even though America is still a massive market and we will still buy mostly American vehicles, because of our decisions on EVs through this administration, because of our decisions on who we chose as a leader, because of our decisions to walk back EV tax credits, Canada will now open their market up to Chinese vehicles. And I can tell you right now, as somebody who's been in a Chinese vehicle, who's driven a Chinese EV, they are imperceptible to some of, and in many ways, because of cost, can be better than what we've built in America. It's done. Detroit is cooked. Detroit is cooked. I'm telling y'all this right now. Detroit is cooked. In France, forget about it. Used to sell a ton of Fords in France. Say goodbye to that.
It's so funny that you talk about the Chinese EVs because I'm obsessed by them. They're everywhere in Australia, absolutely everywhere. And the thing is, the interesting part about China is so good at one thing, and that is copying shit. They literally
steal
took
everybody's
the
idea.
Tesla and they just said, we can do that better, cheaper. Like their cars, when you get in them, like you, I've been inside of them as well, and they are fucking beautiful. Like the quality is amazing. Because the one thing when Teslas came out, their quality was shit. They really was, not the best quality that you ever get from a car manufacturing perspective. So they one-upped them, and I think that's going to be really interesting. The other thing that's going to affect a lot of people, not just in Michigan but everywhere, but think about Ozempic is made in Denmark.
Oh.
There's a lot of things that we won't have access to anymore.
Oh,
not that you or I taking Ozempic.
No, but I'm just saying what will Hollywood do?
I know. And all those suburban white ladies that are running around.
Man, no more. Y'all gonna have to go back to the gym.
Between that and the tariffs that have now been put on the fucking on champagne. Oh my God. What will Birmingham do? Sorry, Birmingham.
Oh, it's a wrap. Oh, that's devastating.
It is devastating.
That's devastating.
I think we do have to touch on the fact, though, that there's been so many drivers. Like, I think Trump started with this whole, we need Greenland for security purposes, which was bullshit because we already have security. Like, we already have access to it. They'll give us whatever we want
It's
there.
a NATO ally. If we just said, hey, man, Russia's getting a little froggy, okay? If we send a couple dudes up there to check it out, yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
That's all we will have to do.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Then he moved into the resources portion of it. Now it's fucking the text message say.
So
please, Norris.
Let's break it down. This is mind-boggling, right? So essentially what we're learning is that this whole motivation behind Greenland, or part of the motivation behind Greenland, is the fact that Europe gave Barack Obama a Nobel Peace Prize and he didn't get one. Here we are about to start World War III because of Trump's penis envy. He is upset that the black guy got a thing that he didn't. Is this not the story of America?
And can I just say, the black guy has bigger hands than him, and we all know what that means.
This is America. This is America if I've ever heard it. I am about to start a war. I am about to burn down Black Wall Street as we know it, because how dare you get what I want? This is stupid. This is the most insecure person on earth.
The text message that he sent, which was basically saying, I didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize, so there will be no peace. It's like, no peace, bitch.
No, I think the exact quote was, I will no longer have to think in terms of peace.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
What are we talking about?
No.
Anyway, speaking of Barack Obama, what is he doing? We haven't heard from him lately. And, you and I had a conversation, particularly around the MLK holiday, of which you got a chance to speak at an event for MLK Day. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit. But, we had a conversation saying, we've heard many other politicians, former politicians and experts and whatnot speak on what's happening in America, but we haven't heard much from President Obama.
Let's be real. What happened was I was like going, where the fuck is Obama? And you said, Julie, don't come at him. Leave my friend alone. Leave my mate alone. But anyway, I feel quite strongly about this. I mean, I feel quite strongly about Obama and Bush. Literally, we are in, as I mentioned before, a break glass moment. And I feel like these leaders, we simply I've said it before. I feel like we're on a rubber dinghy, and we're all sort of sitting here and the waves are coming at us, and our leaders, Democrat and Republican, are fucking running around with football boots on with spikes in them. So it's like we're at such a fucking precipice right now that we need Obama because people respect him. People respect him. People will actually, we need someone, whether it be Bush, Obama, both of them, whatever, come out and we need a calming voice. We need something that's going to, I don't even know that we need hope right now, but we need something, Norris. And it pisses me off that he's playing golf. Sorry.
I mean, I understand that need. I understand that desire. I think my issue with that statement is twofold. Number one, we forget that really the rise of MAGA is because he was president.
Yeah.
Is because the nation somehow could not stand that a black man was its leader.
Yep.
So birtherism, Tea Party, all that stemmed out of just his mere existence. And so I actually don't think his voice right now serves that big of a unifying purpose. I think enough of the country still dislikes him that much.
Do you think, though, that his voice would do anything to harm where we're at right now?
As a black person, yes. I do. I think right now, also on top of that particular point, I think he's also protecting his own peace. Because to be perfectly honest with you, he served as president. He did what he was supposed to do. Pretty great times. I don't know if y'all remember the Obama years, but kind of that second term, we had a lot of fun.
I only got a year of it.
Yeah,
we pissed. I want my money back. Kids.
we had a lot of fun in that second term Obama years. But as a African American, it feels very much so like, come save us, magical Negro. Like, please, you always come and help us. You always save us. You know, when we're talking about the Revolutionary War, when we're talking about the Civil War, when we're talking about both world wars, Vietnam, Korea, when we're talking about the civil rights movement, gay rights movement, every single time in this country, black people have been there to help you. And now we get to a point where we told you what to do, you didn't follow up. No, solve it yourself.
I feel like what you just said then was in my mind. He's like, bitch, I told you. And that's it. I just told you that this guy was trouble, and you still fucking voted for him twice.
And Obama, I think, as a figure that us as black people hold so dearly, I think we don't even want to see him put himself in that position because we know what will happen. Is that, sure, for a minute, people will be super excited. They'll be so into it. Oh my God, Obama, he's back. He's going to help us. And 6-7 months down the line, we'll be talking about the same stuff. And it'll be back on the carousel. So,
Norris, are you telling me there's no magic bullet for this?
No, there's no magic bullet.
Okay.
People are just going to have to get in the streets and help themselves.
We need 10 million people down in DC fucking, like, that's what we need.
Yes.
I've thought about this a bit, actually. We do need to have 10 million. We have 10 million. We have enough people that live close enough to DC or have the means to be able to get themselves there without fucking putting themselves into poverty, to have 10 million people marching on the streets of DC for like a week. That's what we need.
I mean, there's always so many efforts, particularly from, our more leftist groups in America, to try to organize, mass walkouts and blackouts and economic boycotts and things like that. And none of them have really gained much traction.
And they're kind of itty bitty. There's bit here and bit there and it all. But I think what we need is something massive.
Massive, yes.
Something massive. Something that can't be ignored. Something that makes it, we need to make it inconvenient for people as well. Like, there is a point that you have to, okay, shut down the fucking streets for a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I wanted to touch upon that, speaking on this issue, is that you got to go to a Martin Luther King Day event that really had some interesting points, particularly around ICE and around Martin Luther King, who is significantly more radical than people remember. But yeah, how was that experience?
Yeah, so I spoke on I spoke at an event in Detroit on Martin Luther King Day, and I always get, I get the worst like imposter syndrome when I go into these things. It was at a church, I'm probably the least religious person in this room, so I always walk in and think, oh fuck, thank God the church didn't fall down. That's like step one of that's
You
a
didn't
win.
burst into flames.
There's a win. But the pastor that spoke before me was fucking incredible. And it actually gave me hope. And I feel like it's the first time I've had hope in 12 months, quite honestly. He was talking about the fact that this is the time when we need to be preparing. And it was a pretty big crowd in there that we need to be preparing. And it's mostly African American people in the church, obviously, but we need to start preparing. We need to start to teach our kids how to defend themselves. We need to learn how to defend ourselves, defend our families. We need to start hoarding food. We need to start this is where we are at. We are at the point where we can no longer assume that someone's going to fix this for us or that it's going to change just because. We have to start preparing for the worst. And that was the first time I've heard, I just felt that's a practical response, and it hit me viscerally.
Yeah. And, I think it's one of those moments where over the past few weeks, particularly because of the events in Minneapolis, is that people forget that like leftists have guns too.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Well, I just want to point out that this fellow did not talk about guns, but that was the undertone.
Well,
of
we're
it.
talking
Yes.
about defend yourself in the American context. We talking about the pew pews, okay?
All right. I was thinking about
No, we're not talking about taekwondo, right? We're talking about having the switch on you, right? So the thing is that in many ways, and we wrote about this on Substack in our Substack for Distill Social, is that in many ways Martin Luther King is sort of the father of modern resistances. Really, it's like Gandhi and then him, right? The nonviolent resistance, the ability to be able to affect change without open, bloody revolution. And the thing about it is that we actually have protested more, I think, in the past 5 years or 10 years than I've seen us protest in the past 20.
Really?
When I'm talking about huge mass demonstrations, I mean, just think about 2020 and George Floyd. That was a global movement of people protesting police brutality that did ultimately nothing.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, they are just at a point to say, you know what? The only thing that's going to get you to respect me is if I can punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And when you go and see videos in Minneapolis, you're starting to see people open carry.
Yeah.
You're starting to see people, not brandishing weapons, but just having their weapons on them and prepared. And that is to me simultaneously heartening because people are not afraid, but it's terrifying.
Yeah, I was going to say it's starting to get a little frightening. But I think what we have to remember and remind everybody about is that I myself feel like radicalization is the only option right now. We have to become radicalized. We have to, in some way, shape, or form, become radicalized. Now, that's scary. Becoming radicalized is lonely. It means that when you, the conversations you have with the people that you've always had conversations with, the life that you've had for all of your life, within your life, it changes because you look at people differently. The conversations become different. You start to judge people that aren't radicalized. You start to think quite differently. But I think when you remember that on just this weekend, there was a family that was returning from a basketball game in Minnesota in their minivan. I just want all this is to say you can't help be radicalized when a family with 6 children, parents and 6 children, between the ages of 11 and 6 months were basically, their car was pretty much blown up.
Tear gassed.
And they were left with a 6-month-old baby that was not breathing, couldn't see, and they wouldn't even take them to hospital?
No.
This happened in Minnesota on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They were not radical. And the response, of course, from the administration was that, oh, they're radical agitators or something along those lines.
Who brings babies to a protest?
Yeah.
They were literally just driving down their block to go home.
So I'm bringing that up just to say that what is the option at this point?
I don't know. I don't know. But, you know, I agree. I've actually had to do a lot of soul searching personally on not just who I associate with, but people that I engage with political conversations with. And thank goodness I come from a family where we've discussed politics very openly, and it is a multi-generational thing. And I actually will just challenge everybody out there. If you're a parent, start talking about this stuff with your kids. Stop trying to shield them from this, right? Stop. Their innocence will be lost eventually. At least let it be you, somebody who can control how you talk to them about it. Because they're already seeing the videos. They're already hearing about it from their peers. Talk to your kids about this stuff. But anyway, we got to talk about this just to bring a little fun to the pod because it's been quite dour. And me and Julie are going to talk about it because it's fun. So
some more of dumb shit for smart people.
Yes. But it is connected all to politics. So let's just stay there. So Julie, what is happening in the world of it's like the paparazzi world. What's going on?
The Beckhams. Oh my God. Brooklyn Beckham. So for some time now, I won't go into all of the details, but for some time now we've known there's been some sort of a family rift amongst the Beckhams with their eldest son, Brooklyn. Now he married, I think it was in 2022, he married Nicola Peltz. Mm-hmm. And it seemed obvious for quite some time that there was no love lost between Nicola and Victoria and David, you know, and most of it played itself out on social media, quite honestly, you know, missing from sort of significant events like David Beckham's 50th birthday, little bits and pieces like that. So they've never actually come out and said there's a problem, but just this week, Brooklyn has come out and just done like this 5-page, I think it was about 700-word Instagram post or social media post, just explaining why he will never speak to his family again. Not just his parents, his entire fucking family.
Wow.
At any rate, I am obsessed by it. I'm not going to go too deeply into all of it, but there is a portion of it that I've kind of think is worth discussing.
Let's get it.
Nicola Peltz,
his wife,
is American.
That's right.
Brooklyn, obviously, is English. And she comes from a very, very wealthy family.
Of course she
Peltz
does.
family.
Yes.
In Florida. They're billionaires. I think her dad is some sort of finance bro, whatever. And I did a bit of a deep dive on him and found that he has some connections to MAGA.
Oh, boy.
Yep. So apparently they had 3 engagement parties when they got engaged. Because of course you do, right? Of course you do, Norris. Didn't you? You've been married before. You didn't have 3 engagement parties?
I did. I got married during COVID. I had 0 engagement parties.
I didn't even get married in COVID, but I didn't have an engagement party because I'm too lazy to organise it. But anyway.
To be rich.
That's right. 3 engagement parties. One of them was in New York. One of them was in Florida. And then the third one, I'm not exactly sure where that was, but it's all to say that the one in Florida was organised by her father, Peltz, and he apparently invited Trump, Donald Trump.
Time to throw up.
And the Beckhams apparently said, look, we can't have our friends coming to an engagement party of our son with Donald Trump.
Fair.
As a guest.
Fair on them. Fair on them. You know what? Let me explain this, y'all, okay? Because rich people, they do all this kind of stuff, and a lot of these folks end up in the same rooms anyway, people who you think are so diametrically opposed to one another politically, and they all end up at the same parties. And
yeah, they do. I mean, look at the wedding last year in Venice.
Bezos' wedding.
Yeah.
You know, all these people kind of consort with one another. Yeah. So, to be fair, good on the Beckhams for that one. to say like, yo, our people are not gonna rock with this. We're not going to Mar-a-Lago for your stupid engagement party.
I don't know if it was at Mar-a-Lago, but it was like probably similar. But I think the thing is, this is indicative as to where we are right now as well, in terms of like there is an absolute sort of like divide in so many families. You know, it's always difficult to blend families anyway, but when you've got families that come from different places and you've got Marga versus, I don't think the Beckhams are not Marga. I think they're neutral. I don't think they give a shit. They're English and they, you know, probably mix with all of these people all the time. But it's not something, when you're not from here, you don't really spend a lot of time worrying about that
But
stuff.
also, like, you know, you don't want to consort with racists.
Correct, at the same time. Yeah, exactly. So at any rate, the whole thing is kind of interesting, and it's I'm just finding a little bit of it distracts me. Let me just say this.
You know what? And I was gonna ask that as we close the show. Is that, you know, what are you doing to this week, or what have you done over the past week to sort of keep your mind off of all the strife and tragedy?
So I'm going to kind of talk quite personally about this. I'm finding it really difficult, quite honestly. You know, it's like I've said this for years. It's like drinking from a fire hose, and every morning you wake up and think, "What the fuck is what the fuck's going to happen today? What's happened overnight?" And I do find myself, I know that Trump is awake at 3 a.m. fucking, you know, doing truth social. Yeah, on the toilet.
On the toilet tweeting.
Or doing truth social. And I feel like he's had this impact on me where I feel like I'm up at like 3 a.m. worrying about what the fuck what shit's going to go down. Because I think for the first 4 years when he was in office, it felt like it was scary, but it didn't feel as existential as what it does now.
Yeah.
So what am I doing to amuse myself, keep myself distracted? For me, it's always about family, although my family's on the other side of the world. I have the Australian Open is on at the moment, the tennis, so I'm watching that. I've got, you know, people that I know that have got family that are playing, and there's that. I listen to I get on the treadmill in the morning, and I listen to my dad's favorite music, my late dad's favorite music.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's kind of like my hour or so every day where I feel like I kind of, you know, just escape from it.
Yeah.
But it is really fucking important. I'm finding it harder and harder, quite honestly, to socialize as much as I used to, because it just feels so, I don't want to talk about everything that's happening because it feels so visceral. So I'm finding that I'm kind of like probably going within myself a little bit. So
I think for me, I've been very lucky, like I said, to have family and friends that are pretty politically astute. And so there's a lot of sort of, I don't have to explain things, which that's the part that can become so frustrating.
Yeah.
When you're like, how do you not understand what's going on? We could just I could just walk into, you know, my best friend's house and just be like, bro, did you see? Yeah, I saw.
just what the fuck?
Which, by the way, word to those guys, because they all follow Distill Social now. But the thing for me is sports.
Yeah.
Sports is a thing for me, which, by the way, politics is not removed from sports. It is very much so a part of sports. But particularly because I am a soccer fan, that the English Premier League or like Serie A or whatever is so far removed from what's happening right now that when I watch a soccer match, there is nothing that has nothing to do with what's happening here. And so it's very refreshing. And then usually like Gianni Infantino from FIFA gives Trump an award, and then I'm pissed off.
They fucked up the World Cup for you.
Yeah,
Norris.
the World
Cup
really is destroyed. I was supposed to be a lock for those tickets to go see Spain versus Cape Verde, and now I'm probably not going to be able to go.
In good news, it might be cheaper.
It might be, but now I don't know. I'm supposed to be boycotting. We got to be,
true.
you know, we got to be
balancing act.
Yeah.
But how about those Pistons? I have to say, between the Australian Open tennis and the Pistons, it is like that is.
We beat the Celtics this week. I mean, it's incredible. So for all the sports fans out there, and Gina's gonna be mad at us, and I don't care. All right, but for all the sports fans out there, Pistons fans, man, listen. If we win, the strife might be worth it if the Pistons win the championship. It might be worth it. It might be worth living through this timeline. It might be worth living through this timeline, y'all.
He said what he said.
But anyway, that's going to be it for this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias. That's at Point of Disorder and at Distill Social. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky. I think Twitter too. We might still have a Twitter, I guess. But for the show, I'm Norris.
I'm Julie.
And we'll
see you next Tuesday. Sorry, Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Point of Disorder. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to everyone who listened today. And if you like us, give us a like, a subscribe, or a review on any place you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Distill Social and at The Guerrilla Politic. This is the Point of Disorder podcast, signing off. Stay sharp, stay progressive, and above all, stay tuned.